will be going over our November reading wrap. Yeah, the audiobook is great. I couldn't care less for it. Her Majesty, Princess Donut, is everything I would imagine a cat to be. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. My name is Fidi, for those of you who are new here. First of all, I want to say, bear with me. The lighting is absolutely terrible. Right now, the sun's actually peeping out a little through the clouds. I might be getting kind of weird lighting, but it's been consistently cloudy all day, and I can't keep pushing this video because I'm just going to struggle recording it. So very sorry if my camera overexposes now and then. I'm trying really hard to filter out the light. That's besides the point. As y'all read in the title or saw on the thumbnail, we will be going over our November reading wrap. I have my iPad here. I took some notes per usual. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. It's a reading wrap. Y'all know the drill. Grab yourself a drink. I made myself my own drink. Yum. Get cozy and let's get started with this video. In total this month, I did read 6 books. One of them was a pure audiobook listen and the rest were a mixture of audiobook and physical copies. We'll go ahead and get started with our first one, which is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. As some of you may know, I actually have already read Lights Out. I read it the same month it got released. I did not know it was going to be a dark rom-com, so it wasn't exactly what I wanted to read, which is why I decided I was going to give it a second chance later. I very much enjoyed it a lot more this time around. It is not as dark as a typical dark romance. There is still very much a trigger list at the beginning of the book. However, because it is approached more through a comedic lens, it feels a little bit more lighthearted than a typical dark romance book. Lights Out for me this time around was a 4 out of 5. I believe that the first time I read it was a 3.5 out of 5. So just a quick summary about this book. The story follows Allie, who is a ER nurse and has seen the worst of it because of her occupation. So one of her ways to relax is by spending some little quality time with herself. Specifically, she follows this one creator that she's really obsessed with. She's always commenting and stuff like that. And one day she decides she wanted to spice things up and get laid. So she sends a message to her hookup and asks to basically reenact what's happening in the video. The dude's just like,
First of all, I have a girlfriend. Second of all, I'm not really into that.
However, the hookup just so happens to live with the guy who creates this content, and the hookup shows this guy, Josh, the video, and he kind of freaks out because Josh has this basically double life. He puts on a mask and does thirst traps online. No one knows about this account that he has, so he kind of freaks out but gets curious about this girl and decides to stalk her. So basically, Josh is trying to figure out if Allie is actually into the same kinks as he is. Long story short, it's a story between Allie and Josh, and it is a stalker romance. And if you are trying to get into dark romances, I feel like this is like a good stepping stone into it. It's funny, it's a little bit cringy. I feel like this time around I enjoyed it a lot more because, as I mentioned, I already knew what the story was about and I knew the genre that it kind of fell into and the subgenre that it fell into, and that was exactly what I was looking for. So I very much enjoyed it. Josh is a golden retriever kind of boyfriend. The story itself could still be very surface level with the characters, but there is a little bit more to both of the main characters that meets the eye. We just don't really dive into it, and I think part of it is because it takes more of a rom-com approach, so we don't really go too deep into the traumas. I still stand with the idea that the whole mystery of Josh and Allie not being sure who it was revealed kind of early, in my opinion. I don't know if that's like a spoiler. That might be a bit of a spoiler, but for me, I prefer when the romance and the tension is built up throughout most of the book. Personally, I just felt like it was more of an earlier reveal than I would have liked. It is spicy. The focus is on it being a spicy book. There are some things that you do not want to do at home. Yeah, the audiobook is great. I did not listen to it fully in audiobook. I listened to maybe like parts of it, maybe while I was on a walk or I was doing chores, but I mostly read it. I think the other difference from this read and last read was last time I binge read that book. Like I read it in a day. This time I actually took my time. It really did take me a long time to read. However, I was kind of in a bit of a reading slump. This is one of those that I did enjoy and I just had fun. It's a fun book. 4 out of 5. And as for spice, what did I give this for spice? I'm going to say a 3 or 3.5, something like that. After that, I had a chunky book, and it is the final book to the Red Queen series, which is War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. and this is a young adult fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian kind of situation. So I can't really speak on what happened in Warstorm because, like I mentioned, this is the final book in a series. So I'll briefly mention what the series is about. The Red Queen series is about this world where we have two kinds of people. We have the Silvers and the Reds. The Silvers are people who developed powers. They believe themselves superior to the Reds because of their power, their strength, their status. It's a very segregated world. And then you have the Reds, who are just your average human beings, basically. They're the ones that are oppressed in this world. Essentially, where our story starts off is our main character, Mare, is in a time where this 100-year war has been going on. And because of that, all of the Reds that come of age, I think at 18, get automatically inscripted to be part of the military unless they have a vocation. In this case, Mare didn't, but her friend did, and her friend ended up losing his apprenticeship because the person ended up dying, and now he no longer has that apprenticeship, and now he is inscripted. So now, in order to avoid the inscriptions, Mare is trying to help his friend, and she falls into this world of politics with the Silvers and the Reds. Very, very big political world. What can I say about this book? I can say that I'm happy I finished the series. I really wanted to finish the series. I just can't say if I like the series personally. I'm not sure why, and even now trying to reflect that it's been a few days, I enjoyed it enough, but I would not read it again. I think a large part of it is because I might not be the intended audience. I am obviously not a teenager anymore. I feel like maybe if I read this during the time that it came out, I would have enjoyed it a lot more for sure, because this definitely had those components that I truly enjoyed when I was in middle school and high school. As I mentioned, there were moments where we were reminded that Mare was not even 21 yet, and I'm just like,
wow, these are just kids with the weight of the world.
I feel like remembering that these were kids, and when I was that age, I obviously was making a lot of mistakes. It gave a little bit more grace as to why the decisions they made were so not the best decisions sometimes. I do feel like Mare did get a lot of character development throughout the books, but it was a very slow process. I don't think I liked Mare up until the third book. I never liked the love interest either, Cal. I couldn't care less for him. My favorite parts of this book, specifically because we're reviewing this book, were Maven's point of views and Evangeline's point of views. And I think because these characters were just so complex that they were so interesting to read because there were layers to them. There was more depth to them, while I felt like Cal, for example, was a lot more flat. Also with this book, what I had wrote down was the overall big battle was very anticlimactic for all the buildup that happened throughout the book. But I will say, even though a lot of people do not like how this book ended, like the epilogue, I really like how it ended. It is exactly what I wanted for Mare. Not because I don't like her or anything like that, but because I feel like she needs her chance to grow and explore and stuff like that. So I loved the way it ended. Whether or not you agree with me, that's a whole different story. I know a lot of people do not like the way this book and this series ended, but I really did enjoy it, so I gave it bonus points for that. I don't think I said what I rated this. This is a 2.5 out of 5 for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it, but I still kind of got bored. It felt like it dragged a little, and that's kind of how I felt with the full series in general. I just think that some of the books felt a little bit too long, and I again personally was not interested in the romance at all, and I think that because the romance is such a big part of it, it's probably the reason why my feelings towards this book are not that affectionate. Yeah, 2.5 out of 5 for Warstorm. For the series, I'm going to give it a 2.5 as well, because I enjoyed it enough, but personally for me, it was just not something that I want to reread again. I'm glad I finished it though. I'm glad I read it so I could form my own opinions about it. I'm gonna give my camera a break and maybe this whole situation a break, because now it's like impossible to record the way this is going. The next book I picked up was actually for my online book club, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This is a sci-fi book. This was such a fun book to read. Like I said, I was in a bit of a reading slump. I still am a little bit. This book really kind of helped me get out of it because it was just pure comedy with some very real moments here and there. So this for me was a 4 out of 5. I had a lot of fun reading this book, and it's safe to say that I will be continuing the series. I'm just going to take my time with it. A quick summary about Dungeon Crawler Carl. This story follows our main character Carl and his companion, Princess Donut, who is a cat. Carl had chased out Princess Donut in the middle of the night when suddenly the buildings around disappear with the people inside of them, and only the people that were outside that were not under a roof were alive. When kind of like a AI video game style alien came and was just like, if you want to live, enter our dungeon. If not, feel free to roam the world, use whatever resources are left, and we will leave you in peace. But if you want a chance to, you know, actually make it out alive, come and play our game in this dungeon. So he ends up deciding, yeah, I'm not going to freeze to death, I'm going to enter the dungeon, which turns out to be a televised game show of the surviving humans. It is so funny. The combination of Carl and Princess Donut, first of all, is just hilarious. And then the circumstances that they find each other, the AI being very snarky. I don't even know if it's an AI. I've been saying AI, but the like narrator host of the game is so snarky. It's just a very like overall funny book. As I mentioned, it is supposed to be post-apocalyptical. These people are trying to survive. However, it has very somber moments for that very reason. So I can say from like page 1, this book captured my attention. Her Majesty, Princess Donut, is everything I would imagine a cat to be. Princess Donut is probably one of my favorite characters in here. I don't know what else to say about this book. It was very fun to talk about it with the book club. I'm pretty sure if I think about it a little bit more, there's going to be points about capitalism and stuff like that, because it's very evident that it's a dig towards big corporations, because literally the whole game show is due to a big corporation. It's going to be a very interesting series, and I really did enjoy the book. I would definitely recommend it. It's not something I normally read either. Like, I like sci-fi, but it's not something I would have gravitated to, so I'm kind of glad we read this for my online book club, because I probably would have not picked it up if it wasn't for that. The next book, I listened to this book. I do not have a physical copy, and this book, I was able to listen to it through Libby. So Libby came through once again. I just did not get the Kindle version, so I was just listening to it while doing chores and stuff like that. But that is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, and I gave this book 3 stars. This was, like I said, a full audiobook listen. This was a horror book, a story about a little, I think she's an 8-year-old, but in the book she sounds a lot younger, but a little girl who has a friend in her closet that she calls Other Mommy, and Other Mommy asks her every day, can I go inside your heart? Right off the bat, shout out to whoever narrated this book, because I was fully convinced that this was a child narrating the book. Very good job. I feel like the first half of the book, I was very into it. It felt very eerie. I normally don't feel too scared with books, but this one definitely gave me a creepy crawly sensation at the very beginning of the book, just like the first few chapters. I think midway, it did feel a little bit repetitive. At some point in the second half of the book, the family was just running in circles like chickens with their heads cut off. That's exactly how I wrote it down here. And I ended up getting a little bit bored because it felt repetitive, and the ending was very anticlimactic considering all of the buildup that happened to get to that point. There was also a point in the book where I'm just like, oof, either the author had a really bad relationship with a woman or something, because like the mom in this book was just weird the way it was approached. But then I also have to remember the genre it's in, and maybe we want those like really like not reliable narrators. I think overall I really was enjoying the first half of the book, but a huge part of it was probably because of the narration. I don't know what my feelings would have been if I had just read the book. Nice to check it off my TBR. It was something I wanted to get through this year. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did give it a 3 out of 5. I did enjoy myself. My camera's gonna die, so we'll end that review here and move on to the next book while I go change the battery in my camera. Be right back. These next 2 books did take me forever to read, and that was because I was on vacation. That might have affected the way I felt about the books, but I still did enjoy myself. So the next book that I picked up was Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. This is the second book. I don't know what the series is called. This is book 2 of whatever the series is. Let me see if I can find it. Wicked Games series, I think. This one comes right after Phantasma. So this for me was a 3 stars. This is a fantasy romantasy kind of situation. Just a quick summary. This book reads more like a standalone than anything, but there is still some interconnecting plots from book 1 and book 2, and I think it's going to continue on to the rest of the series because I know another book is coming out after this. This story, like I mentioned, is about Genevieve, the younger sister of Ophelia, who decides that she wants to find answers. She goes to this one house, Enchantra, after being kind of like hexed / invited over through correspondence. She ends up going during a time she's not supposed to and ends up getting married and trapped into a game within Enchantra. So that's kind of like all I'm going to say about that. I am going to say right off the bat, I was very hesitant on picking up this book because I enjoyed Phantasma. I really liked it. I was just left a little bit unsatisfied, and then I also did not like Genevieve, and knowing that Genevieve was going to be the main character in this one, I was just like,
do I want to do it?
But I did get recommended this book, and a lot of people have been saying that the second book is so much better than the first book. So I gave in and decided to read it. Reservations aside, I did try to go in with an open mind. However, I also did have a bit of a reading slump, but I still enjoyed myself. It was a solid 3. I did like Phantasma a lot more, but we're not reviewing Phantasma. We're gonna focus on Enchantra. The Hunt, which is the game in Enchantra, was a very interesting concept. Basically, it's the family of the people that live in Enchantra. I believe they were wraiths, half demons, half humans, who are trapped in this cycle of a never-ending game once a year where they have to kill each other to win their freedom from hell because they are bounded to a demon. Our main male character, Rowan, has been the winner for the past few years and decides in order to get his full freedom from Enchantra, he would marry Genevieve because there was a stipulation about it. Why am I going back into summarizing this book? As I mentioned, the game itself was very interesting at first, and it rapidly became repetitive and extremely low stakes because these people are all immortal. So they die, they go to hell, but they're not like dead. The only one who truly would die in this situation was Genevieve. And because of that, it just didn't feel that impactful. Especially when the game started, they went and hid, and then literally they did nothing for hours on end except talk to each other, right? So the games were very, very low stakes, and it just didn't seem that interesting after the very first one that they did. As I mentioned, I was not a huge fan of Genevieve going in. I liked her a little bit more, understanding her a little bit better, but I still found her irritating at times. She was more of a stronger character. I did appreciate that she was very upfront about who she was and what she liked and what she didn't like and what she was going to put up with and stuff like that. I liked that part of her personality very much. And I will say I also very much enjoyed the relationship between Genevieve and Rowan. Rowan is the male main character in the story. They just had more of a chance to develop their feelings because they were actually getting to know each other. Since it was very low stake, they were able to talk to each other a lot. And even though they were already married, they were finally getting to a point where they were starting to grow affectionate towards each other. So I did like how their relationship did develop. I also was very curious about like the demon world, I guess hell, and just like overall the world they live in with like the magic and stuff and how they coexist with mortals. I kind of want to go more into the world in general, but I don't know if it's that kind of series. It's definitely a series that focuses more on the romance. I'm not really expecting that in the books. I will also say that overall this book also left me unsatisfied. There's just so many unanswered questions, and that's exactly what happened in book 1. Again, this could be due to lack of world building, or this might be because there is an overarching plot in the series. These 2 books kind of read like a standalone, but I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to be standalones because, like I said, there is something that's kind of connecting them, and I'm pretty sure we'll eventually connect in the 3rd book. I enjoyed the book enough. I like the world. I just don't know if I want to continue the series. I'm not sure if I'm invested enough to continue it. We'll see depending on what the next book is about. 3 out of 5. As for Spice, I'm going to say a 2.5 out of 5. And then the last book that I picked up for November is my in-person book club book, and that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Even though this is my November book club book, we actually extended it to mid-December because we were really busy due to the holidays and whatnot. This was a 3 out of 5 for me. So this book is a murder mystery book. It feels a little bit more lighthearted. It definitely is not super dark. It does have some serious topics, but nothing to the point where you feel traumatized by what's going on in the book. I did listen to probably half of it because I listened to it driving back to Washington, so It was quite a few hours I listened to this, and then I read most of the rest of the book. This was a mixture of listening and reading. A quick summary, not to go too much into details so then you're not fully spoiled about what's going on. This story is about a group of retired friends who live in this sort of like village of retirees who meet up once a week to try to solve unsolved murder cases. Eventually, a murder actually happens in that village that they live in, and they decide that they are going to solve it with the help of 2 cops. I think my favorite part of this book was the retired people, and mostly because there was so many stories to tell from each person. It was very interesting seeing these people already had lived their life, so they felt like they didn't have much to lose and just kind of got themselves into all of these mishaps, and it was just kind of funny. I really liked kind of just getting to know each character and their quirks and getting to see how each reacted in a different situation. I will say it might have been because I listened to it while I was driving, but it was a little bit hard to keep track of all the characters aside from the 4 main characters and then the 2 cops. But everyone else was just a little bit hard to keep track of, and I don't know if it was the names or I don't know if it was just so many people involved that I was a little bit confused throughout the book at times. I feel like the murder mystery was a little bit predictable. Like I really kind of just saw that one coming from the beginning. At the same time, I liked the journey that it took us through to get to that point. So I did like all of these stories coming out and learning about everyone and everything and just how much depth each character had. A really cute book. I did like it. I'm gonna leave it at that. I enjoyed myself. Like I said, I was reading it through like a reading slump. I feel like maybe if I had read it not during that time, I would have enjoyed it a lot more and I would have more analytical kind of notes. I know that I'm not going to be giving too much for my book club this time around. I think for what I needed at the moment, it did its job. It got me entertained and it might have been a little bit confusing at times, but I think for me, what I loved the most was just the characters. A solid 3 out of 5, and I'm excited to discuss this with my book club. That is basically it. That's all I read for November. I didn't read that much this time around. I was just trying to take it slow and enjoy myself. I feel like I went too hard in October and I burnt myself out and I just needed a moment to decompress and start all over, and these were the books that really helped me get through it. Even if some of them were better than others, I still really enjoyed my time reading. Let me know down in the comments below if you read any of these books. Let me know what you read for November. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already and you would like to, please subscribe. I usually make book content and now and then I make some lifestyle vlogs. But thank you all so much for watching. Have a beautiful day and happy reading. Bye.